Welcome to the Pod-Key Summary of Edmonton. Edmonton is one of those cities that makes more sense the longer you look at it. It's a northern capital, a supply hub for resource projects, a research center, a fast-growing immigrant city, and somehow also a place defined by parkland, festivals, and wildly dramatic weather. What stands out is how many layers are stacked together here. Deep Indigenous history, boomtown growth, climate extremes, civic experimentation, and a cultural life that's much bigger than people sometimes expect from a northern prairie city. A big part of Edmonton's role is practical and strategic. It's Alberta's political capital, but it's also known as the gateway to the north, which means it functions as a logistical base for oil sands development in northern Alberta and for diamond mining operations up in the Northwest Territories. That gateway role shaped the economy in a very visible way. Energy extraction, petrochemical services, oil, gas, pipelines, all of that is central. And in 2014, the Edmonton metropolitan region reported an estimated $57.8 billion in major projects, including $34.4 billion tied specifically to oil, gas, oil sands, and pipeline work. At the same time, the city isn't only a service station for heavy industry. There's also a research-driven side anchored by the University of Alberta, Alberta Innovates, and the National Institute for Nanotechnology. So Edmonton's economic identity has always had this mix of hard hats and lab coats. Long before any modern city showed up, people were living in the Edmonton area at least as far back as roughly 3000 BC, and possibly as early as 12,000 BC after an ice-free corridor opened at the end of the last glacial period. Later, Fort Edmonton became the region's dominant fur trading center after the 1821 merger of the Hudson's Bay Company and the Northwest Company. That's one of the standard historical turning points, but it sits inside a much bigger story that also includes Indigenous displacement after Treaty 6 and the pressure of urban expansion. Even the names for the place tell you something about those layered relationships. The Cree name Amiskwaciwaskahikan means Beaver Hills House, while Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, and Tsuut'ina names describe Edmonton as a big lodge or big house. Those aren't just alternate labels on a map. They carry different ways of understanding what the place is and who it belongs to. Edmonton also has a pretty unusual scale for its latitude. It's the northernmost city and metropolitan area in North America, with more than 1 million people, reaching 1,010,899 in the city, and 1,418,118 across the metro area in the 2021 census. That growth came in waves through railway construction, annexation, and municipal amalgamation, including the absorption of Strathcona and 4 other urban municipalities, and it kept stretching outward, including another 8,260 hectares added through annexation in 2019. What the city looks like demographically is just as important as how big it got. In 2021, immigrants made up 32.5% of Edmonton's population, with the Philippines and India as the 2 largest countries of origin. So this is a city where no single ethnic background dominates, which helps explain why its identity can feel broad, flexible, and a little hard to reduce to one easy stereotype. Honestly, that's usually a sign of a real city, not a postcard version of one. Edmonton's climate sounds almost made up when you list it out. It gets unusually long summer daylight and a lot of sunshine, averaging 2,344 hours of bright sunshine a year. The growing season is about 135 to 140 frost-free days, which is one of the longest on the Canadian prairies. So for part of the year, things can feel generous and surprisingly lush. And then winter reminds everybody who's in charge. January averages minus 10.3 degrees Celsius, and the record low is minus 49.4. That is less a temperature and more a personal challenge. The city's weather history is full of sharp reminders too. The 1987 F4 tornado killed 27 people, and in July 2004, a storm dropped more than 100 millimeters of rain in an hour, flooding or damaging parts of West Edmonton Mall. So when people in Edmonton talk about weather, they're not making polite elevator small talk. They're talking about a force that really shapes memory and daily life. One of the most distinctive things about Edmonton is the River Valley. It's the longest connected stretch of urban parkland in North America, and it's about 22 times larger than New York City's Central Park. The whole system covers 7,400 hectares over 25 kilometers, with 11 lakes, 14 ravines, 22 major parks, and a web of walking and cycling connections. Edmonton also has more parkland per capita than any other Canadian city. That matters because it balances out the city's harsher image. Edmonton has heavy industry and rough winters. Sure, but it also has a built-in outdoor life that includes hiking, cycling, skating, cross-country skiing, golf, and even 4 downhill ski areas. It's a good reminder that the city isn't just surviving its geography, it's actively using it. Edmonton's claim to being Canada's festival city is unusually convincing because the range is so broad. You've got the continent's largest fringe theater festival, a major international street performers festival, jazz and folk festivals, K-Days, pride and winter events like Silver Skate and Flying Canoe Volant. For a northern city, the cultural infrastructure is substantial too. The Winspear Centre seats 1,932 and houses Canada's largest concert organ, and the Citadel Theatre runs 5 specialized halls. What's especially interesting is how culture here reflects both immigrant histories and regional ones. There are Ukrainian choral traditions, the 1938 opening of Al Rashid Mosque, which was the first mosque established in Canada, and festivals shaped by Indigenous, multicultural, and Western Canadian identities. So the festival label isn't just about keeping busy on weekends. It's one of the ways the city tells the truth about how many communities are actually living there. Edmonton has also spent a lot of time experimenting with infrastructure in ways that don't always get much attention outside the city. It pioneered modern light rail in a North American city of under 1 million people, opening its first line in 1978. Then in 1980, it adopted proof-of-payment fares, an approach a lot of other transit systems later used. That's the kind of policy detail that sounds dry until you realize it helped set a pattern other cities followed. The transit story since then has been mixed. Trolley buses ended in 2009. The low-floor Valley Line Southeast Extension finally opened in 2023 after major delays, and the westward phase started construction in 2021. Outside transit, the city has treated utilities as an innovation platform too. Epicor installed the world's largest ultraviolet water treatment system in 2002, and a 40,000-ton annual anaerobic digester now turns organic waste into compost, renewable heat, and electricity. That's a very Edmonton combination. Practical, a little unglamorous, but quietly ambitious. Put it all together, and Edmonton feels like a city built out of contrasts that don't cancel each other out. Industry and research, winter severity and summer light, deep history and constant growth, utility-minded planning, and a real appetite for culture. It's not the easiest city to summarize in one sentence, which is probably why it's worth paying attention to in the first place. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.